we were real fortunate to have the opportunity to present here at NGWA, really trying to provide the history and understanding the metallurgy of what high-strength low-alloy steel is, HSLA, which is the acronym. And it's a steel that's really been around for over 90 years in the water well industry and other industries, but something that's kind of been maybe forgotten or neglected the last couple decades. And really, what our mission has been, not just at this conference, but prior to that, really the last few years, is trying to re-educate the water well industry on this option, which is a viable option for water well owners, for designers, for contractors. And so what we did with our presentation was really trying to educate, first understanding the history of the steel, which for those that weren't able to attend, it's been around. HSLA has been around and under different names for over 90 years. And really, it was developed by United States Steel and in conjunction with Kaiser Steel in the 1930s, and used as an alternative to heavier steel. To get more corrosion-resistant steel, you had to add more iron ore to it, make it heavier. In this case, they needed a lightweight, something that had that corrosion resistance and strength, but wasn't as cumbersome or heavier. So by adding elements like chromium, nickel, silicone to it, they were able to come up with the secret formula that gives it its increased corrosion resistance and higher yield strength, which was perfect for drilling water wells at that time as well, not to mention other things like building bridges, rail cars, even architecture and buildings and stuff. So as wells were being drilled throughout the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, this HSLA steel went under different names such as hard red or core 10, names that generations before us in this industry were very familiar with because those were the go-to options for casing. And that was really the main option, especially when you're talking about cable tool wells where you're jacking and driving the casing in. It needed that extra strength. What happened and what we were educating the group with is that, as we saw other world players start emerging in the world economy in terms of manufacturing and supply, notably countries like India and China in the 1970s and 1980s, we saw their production of steel increase by over 1,000% over the following decades. And what happened is that supply of steel, which is today we know commonly just A53, just your general carbon steel that's been used throughout our industry now, became kind of now the go-to. And HSLA was kind of brushed aside or forgotten about. And in today's industry, what we typically see is A53 is the go-to. But what we received is a lot of feedback over the years from some of our customers, drilling contractors and consultants, that said, column pipe. Column pipe is used in every well for the most part, but we're having issues in certain places where the column pipe is corroding, but the well casing's not. The well casing maybe is constructed from HSLA steel or stainless steel, but column pipe, pump column, is constructed of just your standard carbon steel, A53. Why can't we use HSLA in a column pipe application? And the answer was, we never thought about that really at Roscoe because we're a manufacturer of pipe that's used primarily for water well casing and water well screen. And so it was through really the questions, the inquiries from a lot of our clients and customers saying, we'd love to have that option. That's something that's more corrosion resistant, something that's stronger for a column pipe application to help prolong the life of our column pipe and ultimately the well itself. So naturally, making column pipe is not much different than making well casing and screen. And so with our expertise in rolling pipe, it led itself to that. So a lot of the questions that we've gotten is what makes HSLA steel, high strength low alloy steel, unique or different from carbon steel or from stainless steel to that matter. Because in our industry now, what we're typically seeing is you have carbon steel, then you have stainless. And there's obviously a big difference in the corrosion resistance, and there's also a large difference in the cost. So is there something in between? And HSLA fulfills that. And what it was developed, back in the 1930s. And essentially what it is, it's, your basic carbon steel is essentially iron ore and carbon added to it under heat and pressure. And what the developers of this, the metallurgist of high strength low alloy steel understood is that if you add other elements to it, such as chromium and nickel, and in certain small percentages to it, you substantially increase the corrosion resistance and the strength. Now, if you get to a certain level where you add too much, or not too much, a certain minimum amount of nickel and chromium, for example, that's when the molecular phase of the steel itself changes and becomes designated as a stainless steel. HSLA doesn't hit those minimum thresholds, so it's not a stainless steel. It's still a carbon-based steel. However, with those additional alloying elements to it, copper, nickel, chromium, silicons, things like that, it gives it that additional corrosion resistance, and that's what makes it unique. And there is a specification for it, an actual recipe. The ASTM Book of Standards, they follow, it's designated as the ASTM 606 Type 4. And that's critical in understanding or ensuring, if you're a well owner or well designer, that you're actually getting the steel, the more corrosion resistant steel, because it can get a little confusing, but the HSLA actually represents a family of steels and there's different kind of grades within it, some that have the increased strength, but maybe not necessarily the corrosion resistance. And so as long as if you're looking at buying the product or wanting something that's more corrosion resistant, the key is understanding that ASTM 606 Type 4, because that really ensures that you've got that corrosion resistance.